All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. It's been a while since we did a children's literature and art presentation, and so this is one that Karen and I planned towards the end of last year and put together over the summer. So we're glad you can join us, whether you are watching this live or you are revisiting it as part of the arts webinars that we offer at Riverside County Office of Education. And really the beauty of this is it's an integrated art lesson. And so integrated means that you have two content areas that are co-equal. So the reading is important to this, the language arts piece and also the art making. And I might add that this is definitely culturally relevant teaching. And I was telling my assistant Lily before everybody joined us that, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, a while back, Karen and I challenged each other to move off of our favorite artists that we always were so obsessed with. And now we're obsessed with Yayoi Kusama, but Karen's a huge fan of Frida Kahlo. I'm a huge fan of Georgia O'Keeffe. And we're like, surely there are other female artists that we should be featuring and working with. And then we came to find out that Yayoi Kusama is, what is her title, Karen? Largest or biggest selling female artist worldwide?
Living artist, female. Yeah.
Female living artist worldwide. And so once you are aware of her stuff, you'll see her everywhere. It creeps up, you know what I mean? Like you have that awareness. So we'll go ahead and get started. But first we're gonna share who we are. If I can get my clicker to work here. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so hi, I'm Louisa Higgins. If I haven't met you before or haven't had you on one of our classes, welcome. We're so happy you're here. I'm the Arts Administrator for Riverside County Office of Education, and I love integrated lessons and a big fan of Yayoi Kusama now, over the past 6, 7, 8, however long it's been, Karen, over these past few years.
Hi, I'm Karen Riley, and I am the director of the Scrap Gallery, which is the Student Creative Recycle Art Program. And I'm happy to be here with you and to share what we've been doing related to Yayoi Kusama and how it relates to the environment. And there's also, Louisa mentioned Georgia O'Keeffe, and you'll see a little connection later. So
true.
Even though you wanted to maybe go a little bit away from Georgia, we're going to go see Georgia.
Right back there.
Yep.
That's true. That's true. And you're going to find out she's a really highly interesting person. Here's a quote from her. And a lot of what she does involves dots and really small pattern making. And so this is what she has to say about that, is that why they speak to her. And you notice at the end, she says polka dots are a way to infinity. And that comes back around in the work. So when you're looking at what we're presenting today, look at the dots and notice how they are there everywhere and they're ubiquitous. And you might want to ask yourself, why is that? And when you're noticing it, and we'll tell you why that is.
Okay, so first we're going to do an overview of Kusama, and we'll talk about her life and her art.
Okay. And so one of the things that we wanted you to know about her is a topic that is very current today, which is mental health. And Yayoi Kusama has dealt with mental illness her entire life. And when she was young, it was much more problematic. And as she got older, she started to use it and started to become part of her artwork, and indeed part of the hope and resiliency of her artwork. It makes her unique. And rather than move away from it or not embrace it, it is very much a part of who she is. So I think that's really interesting to know about her. And we did not know that about her when we first started doing projects that were kind of homage to her. And again, I know you're noticing those dots, right? On her outfit, on her glasses, and what's behind her in this image.
Again, she's one of the most successful female artists, and definitely at this point, one of the most successful living artists, female artists. And since her birth, she was introduced to traditional Japanese culture, and she kind of fought against it and wanted to do her own thing. And she's very, as you can see from her artwork and all the photos of her, obviously very, very unique. She does live in a type of mental hospital in Tokyo, but right across the street is her studio. So every day she gets up and she goes to her studio to work. And we figured out the other day, I was doing some projects with third graders, and we figured out she's about 93 years old right now.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, we were doing some math and art.
More integration, yes.
More integration.
Yeah, and here's a photograph of her when she was young. She actually came to the United States as a young person, was part of the avant-garde art scene. So I thought it would be fun for you to see what she looked like once upon a time. And as I said, you know, she was experiencing hallucinations as a young person and used art as a way to cope. And again, that word infinity comes up where she's doing these repetitive patterns. And indeed, we're going to show you an installation called the Infinity Room, where she's using points of light, which are also little round dots, to create an immersive experience. And I think, you know, in some ways she's trying to reproduce, you know, what she sees in her own head. And actually all artists do that. So, but that's very distinct to Yayoi.
And the other reason we are very, very interested and really like to promote the art and the person of Yayoi is her familiarity for fighting for her life and compassion for others, using her art and the dot to explain what she's thinking and talking about peace and the environment and the feminist movement. So it's also something that I'm very interested in and respond to and like to share with students of all ages, actually.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you're noticing the photographs that we're showing, particularly the ones, you know, in the last 25, 30 years, is Yayoi controls the environment. So the backdrop is something of hers, you know, the bench she's sitting on, her outfit, and she tends to wear wigs. And we noticed early on when we started working with her information that like she does the real straight on camera look, right? It's not a selfie, it's not cutesy, it's just very direct. And we thought that was also something interesting about her presentation of herself. And so she's really an original artist in every sense of the word. And, you know, so not only is it survival, and if you know something about the artistic processes, create, you know, arts as well-being or arts as creative personal realization, those philosophical foundations, she certainly uses both of those, and it has allowed her to be enormously successful. And I think this is really hopeful for students or adults who think, well, you know, I have a disability or I have a mental health challenge, you know, what does that mean for me? And this is an example of someone who's very able to take that and make it work for her, and has had an extraordinary career.
All right, here's the little hint that I was hinting at earlier. An unlikely mentorship. Yayoi Kusama discovered Georgia O'Keeffe in one of the books that she was reading about art, and she was very impressed with O'Keeffe's paintings, and she decided to write her just out of the blue. She's a young girl in Japan, and she's going to write Georgia O'Keeffe. And to Kusama's surprise, Georgia O'Keeffe answered her back, and not without the warning of she's choosing a difficult path as an artist, as a female artist, but she advised her to go to New York and show her work to anyone. And so that's what Kusama's going to do.
All right, so moving in to her artwork, we'd like to show you a few of her most iconic pieces or types of pieces so that you get a feel for it. And this will influence, I hope, how you choose to do the flower art project that we're going to do.
So here's the dots. You will again see lots of dots. She's obsessed with dots, and we do mean obsessed.
And that's also an environmental piece, it looks like, right, Karen? Like a walkthrough experience?
A walkthrough, yes, definitely.
Here's something else she's tremendously famous for, is these pumpkins. And you might have seen these. And now that you've seen them, you can't unsee them. I promise you, these will pop up I was watching CNN recently, and I saw someone had one in their, you know how you see everybody's bookshelves and their tchotchkes and stuff, and they had one of these pumpkins. I was way envious. So anyway, she did pumpkins. That's another icon that she likes to use, and I think that might stem back to See what I did there? Pun intended. Stem back to, didn't she grow up on a vegetable farm?
She did.
And so I'm thinking maybe that lifelong use of that as an icon might be a result. She's also done some of these just huge, you know, they're several feet high in bronze and so forth. So that has popped up many, many times in her career.
She's also done the pumpkin as an installation on islands and things like that. So very small ones, very large ones.
Mm-hmm.
And flowers. She's very inspired by nature, obviously. Growing up, she did live on a farm, so she was always studying flowers, from seed to flowering, vegetables and fruit. So yeah, you can see that. Also insects. She does do a lot of butterflies, a lot of flowers. Everyone kind of associates the pumpkin, but there are a lot of huge floral installations and sculptures she's done too.
Interesting. And here's a really neat room. So this is one of her installations called an obliteration room. And so this room, when it first started out, was completely white walls, white ceiling, white floor, white furnishings. And then visitors, as they come in, were given dots to place wherever they want. And so I would say this obliteration room has probably been on display for some time, and it's almost completely gone from white to color. So again, with the dots, controlling one's environment, creating that really busy space. And how fun would that be? Again, I would have loved to have gone to that. And her rooms tend to tour worldwide and be installed in museums. So if you have a chance to go to one, don't miss it. And I'll tell you a story of our visit to one of them. Or Karen will tell you the story.
This is the Infinity Room, which Louise and we've both been to one in LA. We went a few years ago with another artist friend of ours, and we did have to purchase tickets and wait in line. And Louisa was not familiar yet with Kusama, so it was a long wait. It was about an 8-hour wait, but we were looking at other exhibits, but I don't want to wait for that. But we did wait for it, and as you can see, you're going to walk out and to it's what would you call that?
Platform. It's a
platform, and underneath there's water and it's mirrors and there's lights everywhere, and they shut the door and they leave you in it, and it is one of the most awe-inspiring, wonderful experiences, at least I've ever had.
Yes.
And it's worth the wait.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come out, it's you feel cleansed. You feel like, oh, I'm part of the universe.
Right.
It's really a really moving experience.
For sure.
If you ever have the opportunity to do an Infinity Room, absolutely do it. It's worth it.
Absolutely. You feel like you're standing in outer space. The picture doesn't do it justice, because you just feel like you're standing there and everything is black and just points of lights, and they actually pulse. It's incredible. So picture doesn't do it justice, but I promise you it is worth your time. This is another thing that Yayoi has done. And this was, gosh, I want to say it's about 15 years ago, but she did a collaboration with Louis Vuitton. And you can still pick up some of these pieces vintage, like on eBay. They're incredibly expensive because it was a limited edition run. And I only wish I had been aware of it at the time that these came out. But it's just another example of her work really finding its way into pop culture and into fashion. And I remember being in New York and seeing these huge windows with those tentacles, and I didn't know about her and I didn't know what it was, but I do remember the big display windows on Fifth Avenue. So she's kind of done it all.
All right, we're going to do a close read of today's book, Yayoi Kusama, From Here to Infinity.
Okay, and just bear with us, because if you like the story and you don't have the book already, it might be something you'd like to purchase for your classroom if you want to teach this lesson to your students. And again, we feel so strongly about students in our classes seeing themselves represented in the literature that we share and then the art that we do. So here comes the book, and we will we'll take turns reading it, and please read along. And these images are taken from the book. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. Yayoi Kusama was born in the country of Japan on the island of Honshu in a town called Matsumoto City. An old palace made of wood and stone overlooked a moat where swans swam. The streets were lined with little shops, and snow-capped mountains rose in the distance, swallowing up the sun as it went down in the evening.
Yayoi's family owned nurseries where all kinds of flowers and vegetables grew, and workers tended the plants as they matured from seeds to sprouts to stalks. But Yayoi yearned for a different life, far from the countryside. She dreamed about what lay beyond the mountains in places far from Matsumoto City. She longed to leave home and see the world.
Yayoi's mother wanted her to stay home and learn old-fashioned manners, how to dress elegantly, walk demurely, eat politely, and find a proper husband. But Yayoi wanted to be an artist. Every day she went outside with ink and brushes and paper. She drew things she saw and things she imagined. She looked closely at the pebbles that lined the riverbed and at the leaves and stalks of plants, and she drew them as chains of tiny cells that looked like dots.
When she was 28 years old, she packed up her silk kimonos and thousands of drawings and stuffed dollar bills into the toes of her shoes. It was her first airplane trip. There were only 4 other passengers, and the weather was stormy with rain and lightning. The airplane wobbled and dipped as it flew to America.
In New York, Yayoi went to the top of the Empire State Building, the tallest building in a city full of tall buildings. When she looked down, she saw buses and cars and yellow taxis zooming up and down the avenues, and bankers and teachers and artists rushing to work. From up on the 86th floor, they looked like dots.
Move the picture a little bit here. Yayoi set about turning her drawings of dots into paintings. The dollar bills that she had brought to America quickly ran out, and she spent what little money she had left on paint and canvases. She worked day and night. She painted when she was cold. She painted when she was hungry. She painted when she was lonely. She was devoted to her dot. For her, they were a way of thinking about the world among the stars, as one dot among millions of others. I'm going to correct myself and say that must have been stars. But anyway, slight typo. They were a way of thinking about infinity.
Her paintings seemed so different from those she had seen at MoMA. When she at last was ready to show her work in public, she invited all the friends she had made in New York. When she arrived at the gallery, a crowd was spilling out on the sidewalk. Her friends lifted her into the air, shouting, "Yayoi, you've finally done it." Word about her artwork spread quickly. Her friends told their friends. Newspapers wrote about her work, and reporters clamored to interview her about her dots. Now she began to show them in other cities all over the United States and Europe.
Her dots were covering the world. They appeared in Venice in thousands of dot-shaped mirrors scattered over a big green lawn, on a pumpkin on a pier, on dresses and t-shirts, on people walking down the street, and in mirrored rooms where glowing dots were reflected and reflected again, an infinity of dots.
Having visited many countries all over the world, Yayoi returned to Japan. The country had changed since she left, with many different artists challenging the old traditional style, as Yayoi had been doing all along. She still lives in Japan, and she continues to paint her dots every day.
Okay, so that is our reading of the story, and we abridged it a little bit, so it's not complete. And this is definitely a book that you'll want to lay hands on because it was published by MoMA. You can see it's a little bit cut off there, but From Here to Infinity. And one of us will grab the link during art making time if you want to look up where to order that.
All right, so now we're going to do our Kusama art project. It's an homage to her style. And again, it's very simple to do. And I've been doing it since summer. And
it's road tested, yeah.
It's road tested, and it was especially great to introduce Kusama last week and this week as part of International Dot Day, which a lot of elementary schools celebrate. You just start with a dot. And
Right.
so that was really fun to do. So this is the project that you're going to do. Yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
And this is probably the simplest project we've ever done in this series, the least expensive and easiest to put together, which is the reason we didn't mail it out to you. But all you need is a paper plate. If you don't have a paper plate, you can use construction paper, maybe a pencil, scissors, and then something to color with. So it could be markers, pencils, crayons, whatever you have handy.
So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to draw a flower shape and you're going to cut it out and start with a dot. Place it in the center and keep going out. Again, you can add other patterns to it. You can see when she uses the dots to create form and pattern. So just start with a dot. It's kind of just like International Dot Day. These are some that I did
As examples.
And then here's the real deal. Kid approved.
Well, and I think you even started adding backgrounds, right? That was another.
I did. So if you have just a piece of construction paper, we did do backgrounds and we added more dots to it. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep, more dots. Okay, so we are going to have art making time. I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for us to go ahead and make some flowers of our own. See how we're doing for time. And I think, did we decide we're going to do 10 minutes, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. And meanwhile, we'll go find the link to put in the chat for that book. And I'd invite you to go ahead and mute us and go ahead and put the music you like on so you can get into your creative space. And let's go ahead and make art. And I will find us some background music. But if you don't like it, go ahead and put your own on. And let's get started. Thank you. I'm looking for the link, Karen. There it is. Mhm. back. Let's see. I was just turning the music down off. So that was 10 minutes that went by fast. I'll tell you what, that music is very peaceful for me. Anyway, after a busy day. So this is the time that we like to do a gallery walk, which is what we would do if we were in the classroom together, or you might do with your students, I hope. And so at this point, there's a couple people I was watching doing their work. If you can raise your hand or just come off mute, I'll stop the screen share and show us your creation and tell us what your thought process was on that. And it's also neat to give other people positive feedback, either verbally or in the chat. And somebody asked Lily, I think Trisha asked Lily if we would put closed caption on. I'm sorry we didn't catch that earlier, but I will tell you that when this video posts online within about 2 weeks, I always close caption it. So that will all be done and available to you very soon. So let me go ahead and stop the share and see if I believe I was looking. Jennifer, do you have something that you might consider sharing with us?
Oh, nice.
Let's see. Let me pin you so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, there we go. Oh, wow. Oh, see how that pattern really worked for you, didn't it?
It did. I was like, hey, just go with it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw her plate before she started. That blue pattern was all around the rim. And so she really made that work. I'm always jealous when I see all her Hello Kitties back there too. That's joyful. It brings me joy. Very nice. Thank you for sharing. And like I said, feel free to give feedback to each other in the chat. That always makes you feel good, right? To know how your art affects other people. Dawn, did you have something that you might share with us?
Hi, just having my little pink zen moment.
Aw,
I just felt very at peace. I started with my spiral, kind of just unwinding a bit and letting my brain kind of wander. And then each of my dots was a thought as I went about it. You know, thank you.
That's a great way to go about it. I was just going to say there's another project I do where in the center I put a dot and a word that's what I'm most after. So usually I put joy in the very center, but I like your idea. Each dot is a thought. That's neat, huh, Karen?
I like that idea very much.
Feeling that idea. We love it.
Dot is a thought. Got it.
That is a thought. Nice. Okay, Lori, I see you. Do you have something to share with us? Okay, you just got started on that. I like how you're using the back of the plate, so it's going the other way around. You're muted. Sorry, sweetie. I can hear you.
Yeah, I just got started. It took me a while to figure out the flower part. And
okay.
This is easier to do the markers on than
underneath.
Underneath. So I have to figure out my pattern. But It is very meditative and peaceful.
Or maybe your pattern is no pattern at all. That's possible. Right?
Well, I was going to go with a color pattern. I was trying to think colors. I'm not good at thinking what it's going to look like before I start. So I'll have to do some playing.
Okay. Well, you're off to a great start, though. Thank you for sharing. Trisha, can we get you to share?
So there's actually two of us here. It's myself and Shar.
Hi.
Sorry, we just don't fit on one. We don't fit very well on one Zoom screen. So we have two.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Mine is this one. The different sizes of the dots more represent how intense the feeling is. And it kind of describes my day through every period I had today. So, each petal was the different classes. So there were some people who stuck out more than others, and they're in my mind very deeply. And then Char will explain hers.
So mine was this was sort of me decompressing from the day. Mm-hmm. So I just needed to just sort of be very repetitive. It was very relaxing for me. Mm-hmm. Just sort of experimenting with the colors.
Well, I noticed that a couple of people have really tied this to social and emotional learning competencies with the thoughts and the colors relating to actual experiences in their day. So that's really interesting. And I don't know that we've taught it that way, Karen, up to this point. So I love how this group has added that dimension.
I like that. It can be a relaxing
But
project.
it's definitely very zen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just repetitive patterning, and it's not taxing your brain in the way like, oh, I have to create something or I have to draw something. It's just there. We all know how to do that. Yeah. I don't know your first name, Ms. Price. Do you have something to share with us?
Hi, my name's Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
So I had a shiny plate. It was one of those silver shiny ones.
Wow.
Mhm.
So when I try and cut out my flower, I try to make it look like overlapping hearts. So,
Wow, you're right.
so I try to do the hearts on the edges with the other hearts. And then my mind was honestly thinking dot, 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 which was very relaxing, but it was just, that was it. So
Right.
a little more yellow in the middle, but that's my
It does
fun.
work though. If you just start with a dot,
Right.
it does work.
Well, it's certainly, the new art standards are about process, not about outcome. And so, whether the outcome is what you think it's going to be or not, the process is fun and it's healing. And it's also non-intimidating, right? A lot of people, the older we get, go, oh, I'm not an artist. I can't do that. We can all do a dot, right? It's accessible to everybody. Awesome. Did I miss anybody that might like to share? I was looking for videos on, but if I missed anybody, please speak up. Okay. All right, let me bring back the PowerPoint. Here we go. Well, excellent work by everybody, and I appreciate your willingness to share with us. It's always so fun for us to see how other people do it. And I have to brag on Karen. Karen has a million and one other Kusama related projects. So if you like this one and you thought it was fun, hit her up. This is her email address. This is like, she made little pumpkin bags. And you can see I took a picture of it. So she's got more. She's really one of the most brilliant, creatively people I know, have ever known.
Thank you. And I just wanted to also note that when you cut out the flower form, like I cut out, I don't know, like 200 last week. We kept these because we were also using these. We were also putting dots and making the flowers dimensional. Some of the kids were doing that. So definitely save these because you can do a lot with them. Yeah, the cutout pieces, definitely. And then we're also showing about pattern and things. We're also showing, where you see dots in nature and animals. So you could see it in the monarch. You could see it in this moth. You can kind of see it in the giraffe. So we were talking about where you see dots. And again, yeah, the pumpkin's an easy one. And it's stuffed with just scraps. We painted it, and then when it dried, I just did dots with a marker. And we did kits that had different projects at a school that we're not able to go into the classroom yet. So we did kits. So we have all kinds of different Kusama projects. So please hit us up for kits and materials. We work with everybody.
Awesome. And then I have the resources here that we used today. So you can look up under Art Story, most famous artworks of Yayoi Kusama, and MoMA has a great site to research artists and check them out. And then the last thing I wanted to share with you is, please teach this lesson to your students and share it with others. As soon as we get finished here, my assistant Lily will send you a feedback link and the slides, and look for it online in about 2 weeks because it takes some time for me to sit down and closed caption it so that it's just maximally available to everybody. So that is a wrap on today's lesson, and we hope you enjoyed it. We certainly enjoyed you, and we appreciate your time very much, and we appreciate you doing art with students and making that a priority in your day. So we'll stay on if anyone has any questions, but that is it.
I was curious, are you guys going to continue having these styles of trainings and stuff like that around famous artists? Is that something we're going to continue to do?
Well, we have done 4. I see what you're saying. Yeah, we did Frida Kahlo and we did Yayoi Kusama. We originally started, we were just looking for great children's literature. The first two we did were Native American stories. And then we, what did we do after that? Then it was Frida. Now it's Yayoi. The next one coming up is Henry Box Brown. It's the Freedom Box, and it's an African American story. So we kind of have a foot in both camps, but I think there is something there about famous artists. So that's a potential. We're actually going to do an in-person day coming up where we're going to feature 3 of the books. So because we're artists, we love doing the featured artists. So I think, you know, if there's an interest, that's definitely a possibility. Wouldn't you say, Karen?
Oh, definitely. Or a subject, you know, bees, anything. We can come up with
It's
stuff.
true.
I
Sometimes
happen to
people
be
make
a
requests.
science teacher, so bringing up how she loved nature and all of that stuff, it can tie in very, very easily,
Exactly.
and it's integrated in that fashion.
Mhm.
But I'm also out of district. I don't know how I was invited, but I'm actually up in Northern California.
Well,
So that was why I was
welcome.
curious. Thank
That's
you.
great.
Yeah.
That's
And
great.
it was an amazing workshop, and thank you.
Yeah, feel free to email us if you have an idea for our next big project, because they take a fair bit of work to put together. So we like demand rather than us just thinking it's a great idea, which it might be. But, you know, you're the teachers on the ground, boots on the ground, doing the work every day. We want to support you. So you tell us how we can be most effective.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.